everyone. Today we are going to discuss about one of the hottest topics on the earth right now, that is Taliban. Taliban capturing Afghanistan and its implications on India. In this discussion, we are going to briefly discuss about the location, about the society, culture of Afghanistan. Then we are going to talk about why Afghanistan is important to India. We will be also taking a brief look into the history of Taliban, the present situation and way forward for India, its implication and way forward for India. To begin with, now most of us know the location of Afghanistan, but still we will very briefly discuss about it. Afghanistan, the land of Afghans, it is a landlocked country which is at the crossroads of Central Asia and South Asia. It is having borders with many countries, like it is having borders with Pakistan, it is having borders with China, with Iran, with Uzbekistan, with Turkmenistan, with Tajikistan, and even India claims to share border with Afghanistan at Gilgit and Baltistan, which is presently in POK, that is your Pakistan occupied Kashmir. So this is what is the geographical location which makes it very important. Almost it is at the heart of Asia. It is at the middle of Asia. So it becomes geographically, it becomes very, very important country. And if you talk about the society or the culture of Afghanistan, Afghanistan is multi-ethnic society, and mainly predominantly it is having a tribal culture. There are many tribes. Approximately 14 major tribes are there. We have Pashtuns, we have Hazaras, we have Baluch, we have Uzbeks, we have Tajiks, we have Pamiris, etc., etc. So this society is full of different ethnicity, different cultures and customs of these tribal communities. And if you see the history, Afghanistan has never been the core. It has never been the core of any major civilization. Though it has been part of some important kingdoms, but it has never been the part of any major civilization. Rather to say it has been sandwiched between two major civilizations, that is your Indus Valley civilization, and on the other side we have Persian civilization, Iran ki civilization. So overall this region is geographically very tough, it is very rugged, and so are the tribals here. They are also very tough, they are also guerrilla fighters. So this is the culture and this is the geography and how it has influenced the culture of this particular country. Now when we say that it is a very tough, it is a very hard, it is a very harsh climate region and so are the people here, then why does Afghanistan matter to India? Afghanistan is very, very important for us because of its geostrategic, because of its geopolitical, because of its geo-economic relevance to it. And because of these importance, we had very old relationship with Afghanistan. Our friendship with Afghanistan is not new. We have old cultural, we have old trade relationship. It has been the part of old Silk Route also. And if you could remember, many of you might have read, even like our generation, we have also read the story of Kabuliwalas by Rabindranath Tagore. So this shows the cultural connect. Then we had the Bamiyan statues. Buddhism has gone to Afghanistan from India. Sikhism has gone there. So we had a very old cultural connect with Afghanistan. And further, other reasons are also there, security reasons are there, because of which Afghanistan becomes very important to us, because Afghanistan falls on the Golden Crescent route, the route through which drugs are trafficked. So this is a part of Golden Crescent, and also this Afghanistan has shown itself, or it has developed itself as a nursery of many terror outfits like Al-Qaeda, Taliban, East Turkestan Islamic movement, etc. And many of the anti-India insurgent groups are also getting direct or indirect support from the Afghan soil. So because of all these security implications, because of its strategic implications, because of its vast mineral resources that Afghanistan is having, this region becomes very, very important for India. And if you go back to the recent history and even in the past also, India and Afghanistan overall have a very positive relationship. Only the time when it was Cold War or when it was Taliban 1.0 there, or in the present times, we are seeing that there is some low in the relationship, but overall the trajectory of relationship between the two countries have been very positive. Now let us come to the brief history of Taliban. What does the word Taliban mean? Taliban means students. So student in the Pashtun language, how it has emerged. So this student movement has emerged in the early 1990s in the northern Pakistan. Yes, in the northern Pakistan, following the withdrawal of your Soviet forces after the Cold War from Afghanistan. And it first appeared in religious seminaries, and slowly it started growing and expanding itself as a political movement and later as an terrorist outfit. It promised to bring peace, stability, security and enforce the Sharia laws in Pashtun dominated areas of Pakistan and Afghanistan once it comes to power. That was the promise by Taliban to the Pashtun community. And for this, it started working, and from the northern part of Pakistan, it started spreading to your southwest of Afghanistan, and from there it went near to your Herat, which is very close to your Iran. In 1994, it has captured Herat, and then by 1996, it captured Kabul. And when in 1996 it captured Kabul, it overthrew the president that time, the president Burhanuddin Rabbani, who was one of the founding fathers of the Afghan Mujahideen. So it overthrew Rabbani and then it captured the Afghanistan that time. If you talk about 1990s, when Taliban 1.0 was there, it has captured almost 90% of the Afghan region. So almost 90% of the Afghanistan was under the control of Taliban that time. And that time, if you see the history, if you go through the past, we find that initially people welcomed Taliban that time. Why people welcomed Taliban that time? Because they have got weary of the Mujahideen excesses as well as the infightings amongst the various warlords after the withdrawal of the Soviet forces from Afghanistan. So people were very tired, people were very weary of all these instabilities there. And at that time when Taliban came to power, initially it has helped to curb corruption, it has helped to curb lawlessness, and it has developed lots of roads inside Afghanistan, which has led to the flourishing trade. So people were really happy initially. But as time started passing by, Taliban started implementing its draconian Sharia laws, and it banned television, it banned education, it banned women from moving out, it banned girls from going to the schools. There were a lot of human rights violations. That was the time when even Bamiyan statues, they were destroyed. It is considered, that time is considered to be one of the darkest periods in the history of Afghanistan. And people got tired of Taliban, they wanted to get rid of the Taliban. And on the other side, how world came to know about Taliban, how the world attention came to Taliban that time was the 9/11 event. So 9/11 that happened, the Twin Tower attacks in USA, that has drawn the global attention to Afghanistan, the Taliban in Afghanistan. And why it drew the global attention? Because Taliban has provided shelter to the main accused of the 9/11 attack, that is Osama bin Laden and his Al-Qaeda movement. And that was the time when world has decided, USA and its allies have decided, and finally in October 2001, USA-led military alliance has launched attack on Afghanistan under the Operation Enduring Freedom. So this is just a brief history about Taliban. And if we make it fast forwards, now nearly 20 years after the US along with the NATO forces have entered Afghanistan, this is what is the picture right now presently. The complete collapse of the government. Mr. Ashraf Ghani, the president, has fled the country. People are directionlessly fending for themselves. Taliban has taken over Afghanistan. It has instituted the draconian legal systems. There is a human rights crisis. Women are allowed not to move out. Girls and women, they are not allowed to move out. There is a complete collapse of the governance in Afghanistan. So 20 years. Same situation was there in 1996 to 1998, 1999, and then what is happening is again 20 years after this, again we are seeing the same situation. Even the diplomats of different countries are exiting Afghanistan. We have seen how people are rushing towards airports. There is a lot of human crisis that could be easily seen through the video clips or other news items, what is happening at the Kabul airport. So there is a complete mayhem that is going on there. This is a grave humanitarian crisis. Now the obvious question that comes to mind is, 20 साल के बाद जब तालिबान को मतलब what has happened? Like after 20 years, the same US government which has come to Afghanistan with the promise of removing Taliban is now again giving the power in the hands of Taliban and coming out. So what went wrong? Why this has happened? 20 years and the same story. We are again back to square one. So has it happened all of a sudden? What are the reasons? What went wrong? So if we see it, the Taliban advance did not come out of a sudden, or it has not come out of a blue moon. It has been preparing the ground for this victory of this final battle for years. It's not something which has happened in just 1 or 2 years. Taliban had been preparing for this for years. It started capturing or controlling the districts in the countryside, and it started positioning itself in these locations so that it can easily advance to capture the urban areas, and that is what we have seen right now. Taliban had initially captured the countryside, and slowly it has moved to the urban areas, and finally it has captured Kabul. And for this, it has diversified. Now the question is, from where were the fundings coming to Taliban? Some of the countries like Pakistan and Saudi Arabia, they were providing support. There have been donations coming to this organization, and on the other side, they have also diversified their source of income beyond the poppy cultivation. And then they have also captured the arms and ammunitions of the Afghan forces. So because of all these things, Taliban became strong. And On the other side, this was happening in front of the Taliban side, and on the other front, if we see parallelly what was happening, parallelly if we see the national unity government in Afghanistan was in shambles. There was a lot of political instability, political conspiracies were getting planned. There was nepotism, there was corruption, the leadership was very, very weak. So finally what we have got is what we are seeing the present day Afghanistan. And there have been accusations that Mr. Ashraf Ghani has not been able to keep the Taliban forces motivated. And that is why if you see the not the Taliban forces, but Afghan forces motivated. So that is why if you see Afghan National Defense Security Forces have proven completely incapable of defending the Taliban forces. And if you see on the papers, this could not have ever been possible. Why this could not have been ever been possible? Because on papers, if you see, we have approximately 3 lakh men in the Afghan forces, and these men have been trained by the most powerful military alliance on the globe. USA and NATO forces, they have trained them, and they have received hundreds of billions in support, and also they had the basic air force, armored fleet, and the backing of its government. Vis-a-vis, on the other side, if we see Taliban, they are hardly 75 to 80,000 in number. They do not have any formal backing of any state. Of course, informal backing has been there, but formally they have not got any kind of backing. There has been they do not have that kind of sophisticated technology like you have with the US or the NATO forces. Yet they have dominated the Afghan National Defense Security Forces. And finally, the final nail in the coffin has been the announcement of the withdrawal of the US forces, which has further deflated the morale of the Afghan forces. Why it has deflated the morale of the Afghan forces? Because there has been lot of corruption in the Afghan forces, which they were knowing, and then further they knew that once US forces withdrew, they would be losing the critical US safety net. Like you have air power support to fend themselves, then technical expertise to maintain their military equipments and etc. would be lost. So finally they were completely demotivated. So some of them have even surrendered before the Taliban forces. So that has been one of the major reasons of corruption that has led to the present day situation. People say that it is the victory of Taliban, but if we see this, I would say that it's not the victory of Taliban, rather this is the defeat of the Afghan governance system. Some also believe that the US withdrawal has created this crisis, but if you dig deep into the details, if you analyze the situation, then we see that in the last few years, even with the boots on the ground, there have been lot of record-breaking civilian casualties in Afghanistan. And even before the Biden administration has announced the withdrawal, the Taliban has controlled more area, more territory than at any time since the US forces entered the country. And the US and Taliban peace deal, the Doha peace deal outside the Afghan government has also given legitimacy, international recognition to Taliban. So it has boosted the morale of Taliban. So overall, again, I would say that it's the complete failure of the Afghan governance system. And because of this failure of the Afghan governance system, there is a monumental humanitarian crisis that is in making. Now, this is what is the picture presently, and this rapidly changing political and security or military situation in Afghanistan has forced all the major stakeholders to re-evaluate and adjust their policies, their strategies towards Afghanistan, and India is no exception to that. Now, what should India do? India needs to plan its strategy that is going to maximize its policy options and minimize the danger or the damage to its interests. Now the question is, what are the parameters or the pillars that we need to take while making a policy towards Afghanistan right now? So one of the major pillars would be our national interest. Now, our national interest depends on our concerns, our challenges in Afghanistan that we are going to discuss in detail right now. So one of the important pillars is our national interest. Second important thing that we have to take into consideration is the response of the people of Afghanistan towards the Taliban regime. What would be the domestic response to the Taliban regime? That is also going to make some impression on our foreign policy, because we have always talked about Afghanistan-led, Afghanistan-controlled peace process. So Afghanistan dominated. So if it is the people of Afghanistan who make Afghanistan. So how the people are responding to the new regime, that also need to be factored in. And then how the global community is going to respond to this situation in the near future. So all these things are going to form the core or the basis of our policy in Afghanistan in the coming days. Now let us talk about our concerns. What are our concerns in Afghanistan? So number one, and the most important concern in Afghanistan for India is the safety and security of our people. Still, some of the Sikh community, though they are the citizens of Afghanistan, but yes, some of them are still stuck there. So safety and security of our people and our allies in Afghanistan, that is one important concern, number one. Number two is to safeguard our investments in Afghanistan. Like in the last few years, since 2014 onwards, we have done a humongous task for the redevelopment of Afghanistan. We have opened schools, we have made their parliament, we have built the dams, we have like medical facilities we have provided to them, schools are there, we have constructed the highways in Afghanistan. So overall, if you see, if we sum it up, we have invested more than $2 billion in the redevelopment of Afghanistan in the last few years. So to safeguard our investments in Afghanistan, that is also our concern, that is also our priority. Now, third thing that we have to factor in, and the third concern or the third challenge would be the relationship between Pakistan and Taliban. Now, Taliban ruled Afghanistan might emerge as a terrorist breeding ground, and there have been certain reports that have shown that 2019 Pulwama attack was planned in Helmand. Helmand is a province in Afghanistan. So there is a probability that, probability की बात ही नहीं, मतलब there is like, it is assured, it is almost certain that now Pakistan might shift anti-India terrorist groups, it might shift their bases to Afghanistan. Why would it shift their bases to Afghanistan? Because It wants to showcase to the world community, it wants to showcase to the global community that it does not provide support to any of the terror outfits, so that it can get out of the grey list of FATF. It wants to get out of the grey list of FATF, so it would be shifting the terror bases from its soil to Afghanistan. And India has put a lot of diplomatic currency in telling the world that how Pakistan is sponsoring terrorism, and now it wants to get out of it. So naturally it would be shifting the bases to Afghanistan. So that might, and that is almost certain, and that is what is our Prime Minister, that is what is our Foreign Minister is now talking about. And then apart from that, we also have to see that how Pakistan would make the policies so that India does not interfere, or India does not have any kind of a soft power or hard power presence in Afghanistan, because Pakistan wants to maintain the strategic depths in Afghanistan. That is very much clear to everyone. So it wants to maintain a strategic depth, so it would try everything for that. And even Pakistan does not want India to reach out to Taliban. So that is also one of the concerns, that how this relationship is going to have implications on India. Then apart from this, another relationship is a concern for us, that is your Pakistan and China nexus. Now that Taliban is in power in Afghanistan, it is going to form the government there. Pakistan would become very important for China, because it wants to, because China also has certain very important concerns in Afghanistan. One of the concerns is the safety and security of its BRI project, especially CPEC corridor. Number second concern is that China wants that there should not be increase in the, or there should not be a boost of the Uyghur movement in Xinjiang province with the coming of Taliban in Afghanistan. So it wants to control the Uyghur movement, the separatist movement in Xinjiang province. Another thing is that China is also having the eyes on the vast mineral reserves that Afghanistan is holding. And apart from that, China also wants to use this as an opportunity to showcase its strength and its power, its influence in the region. So that is why now Pakistan's role will be very critical in Chinese calculations, and it can be detrimental for us. It's not only, Pakistan is not going to be the blue-eyed boy only for China, rather it is going to be the blue-eyed boy for almost all the countries who are having their stakes, like Russia you can talk about, some of the countries of Central Asia we can talk about, Turkey we can talk about. So that also we have to see how Pakistan and other relationships are going to develop in the near future. Then another point that rather I think it is a sixth point that we are going to discuss right now is that we also have to ensure, that's also a challenge to us, our connectivity. We have to ensure our connectivity to Central Asia. Now, how we are going to ensure it in the Taliban regime, that has to be seen, especially Chabahar port and the further connection of Chabahar to INSTC corridor. Yesterday only Mr. S. Jaishankar, our foreign minister, has said that now we are not going to involve Afghanistan in the talks related to connecting Chabahar with INSTC corridor. So that also we have to ensure our connectivity to Central Asia and further. So that also is a big challenge how we are going to do it. Then also our concern is the foreign mercenaries getting trained in Afghan. Like we have seen in 1989-90s, when there was the withdrawal of the Soviet forces from Afghanistan, many of the mercenaries were turned towards India, and that was the time when terrorism started picking up in Kashmir. So again, we have to be very cautious about this. And also, now Taliban has captured Afghanistan, there would be increase in the poppy cultivation, there would be increase in the drugs trade. Drug flow to India would also increase, which would further have implications on India's internal security, because now with the coming of the drugs, increased drug inflow into the country, organized criminal groups would get a boost. So, and moreover, and it is also, and there is also a kind of a concern that the Pakistan's ports would now be used as a transshipment hub for drugs and for your arms and ammunitions, for bringing them to India. So our concerns or our focus should be to increase our internal security as well as our maritime security. So that is also a concern, that is also a challenge which would be there with the coming of Taliban in the region. And then another biggest challenge that India would be facing is whether to recognize Taliban government or not. That would be a big question in front of India, and it would become more complicated. The decision will get more tough, especially if China and Russia recognizes Taliban government in one form or the other. So these are some of the concerns, these are some of the challenges that we can see in front of India. And keeping these challenges in mind, we need to formulate our policy for Taliban, for Afghanistan, which is now dominated by Taliban. Now, seeing all this, you might say that now it's a very gloomy picture for India. India has lost almost everything with the coming of Pakistan, with the coming of China, with the coming of Turkey in the picture. India has lost, and Pakistan has now won. Apparently, if we see, no doubt at present it is a win for Pakistan, but otherwise this is too simplistic a view, because there are some good ray of hope for India. There are some rays of hope for India. Why there are some rays of hope for India? Because a country like India, a major power like India, cannot be ignored by Afghanistan, cannot be ignored from Afghan affair for long. Because if you see this time, Taliban 2.0 has clearly said that it is very different from Taliban 1.0 when it came to power when it controlled Afghanistan in 90s. It is completely different. It has also assured that it wants to have friendly and peaceful relationship in the neighborhood, and it has also assured that it would not allow its soil to be used against any of the neighboring countries, and it also wants this in the reciprocity. So now Taliban this time wants international recognition, and that is why we have seen their envoys are traveling to so many countries. सबसे पहले तो if we see, even USA has done a deal with Taliban outside the Afghan government. Then we have seen their envoys traveling to West Asian countries, traveling to Central Asian countries, traveling to Russia, traveling to Turkey, traveling to China. So it clearly shows that this time Taliban wants the international recognition, and it also wants because that the people of the country should accept them. And that is why we have seen that there every now and then their spokesmen are clearly saying that people should not be afraid of us. People should just wait for some time. Once the situation becomes, security becomes better, we will allow women to work, to go to work, but within the parameters of the Sharia laws. So they also want development. They also want acceptance of them by their people. They also want acceptance of them by the international community. So they would definitely want development. And for development, they cannot depend on Pakistan, whose economy is already in a very, very bad shape. And on the other hand, China alone cannot be one complete source for the development of Taliban in Afghanistan. So it wants to diversify its regional partnership. It needs India, it needs USA, it needs many other countries for the growth and development of Afghanistan. So that's why I was saying that India is in such a position that it cannot be kept out of Afghan affairs for very, very long. And on the other side, when we were concerned about Taliban and Pakistan nexus. So when we see Taliban and Pakistan nexus, it's not all hunky-dory between the two countries. They also have issues. Their friendship would be tested on many of the issues now. Number one is the Durand line. Durand line is the line which divides Afghanistan and Pakistan. And Afghanistan does not recognize this line as a boundary. And even during the regime of Taliban 1.0, Taliban has not accepted the Durand line. So we have to see the strength of the relationship would be tested on these issues. One would be your Durand line. Then second would be the Pashtun issue. The Pashtuns are living across the border in both the parts. So we have to see how both the countries would be now dealing or how they would be tackling the Pashtun issues. Then another thing is, with the coming of Taliban in Afghanistan, we have also seen the terror attacks, or we have also seen the civilian casualties have been on rise in Afghanistan. So that is also a concern. Now it will be very difficult for the Pakistan government to take stringent actions against Mujahideens. So it will become very difficult. Another thing to be seen is that now with Taliban in power in Afghanistan, we are going to see that ISI is going to have a greater role in Pakistan affairs, because ISI also get most of its funding through illegal channels now, poppy cultivation and other terror financing and black marketing. So many things would be there. So now ISI would be getting a wider role. Its stature would increase, and if ISI stature would increase, naturally the elected government of Pakistan would come down. Their influence would be reduced. And moreover, Taliban has clearly said that it does not believe in the democratic government structure or democratic government system. So that is why we can say that yes, we have to see. We should not be worried about the closeness of Pakistan and Taliban. Rather, we have to wait and watch how the relationship would further grow in the near future. And another thing that needs to be seen is that we say that Pakistan is going to control the Taliban dominated regime in Afghanistan. No, not this will not happen. Why? Because any government, now that Taliban is going to form a government in Afghanistan, and no government would want to be the puppets in the hands of others, and that too when it is Taliban, which has, now they are saying that we have defeated USA, they say that we have defeated USSR, so they might have used Pakistan to come back to help them to come back into power. But once they are in power, they would not want to become the puppets in the hand of Pakistan. छोटी सी छोटी country भी किसी से dominate नहीं होना चाहती है. Now that they are making the government, they are going to form the government. They don't want that their government should be the puppets in the hands of Pakistan. So we should not be too much worried. The only thing is we have to just wait and watch. Another nexus that was our concern was Pakistan and China nexus. So here also, if you see, China is very, very clever, and China has learned the lessons from the past. Though China and Pakistan would be they would be doing piggyback with to each other in Afghanistan, but China would be treating very cautiously. China has understood that those countries who have depended entirely on Pakistan for their role in Afghanistan, they have lost, be it your USSR, be it your USA. So China is not going to be 100% dependent on Pakistan for their control over Taliban, over Afghanistan. So this nexus is also, we have to see, it's not it is not that rosy as it appears. So seeing all these things, the picture is somewhat coming, it is becoming somewhat clearer to us that we do not have to be too much worried about Taliban coming to power in Afghanistan. The concern is not only for us, concern is for everyone. So we just have to wait and watch. So everything is not lost for India. The best option for us is to have patience right now. So the best option is to have patience, number one. And also simultaneously we need to open our channels. We need to have the channels of communication open with Taliban. We cannot have a policy of no talks to Taliban. Now that's an old policy. We cannot say Taliban is Taliban, there is no good or bad Taliban, we will not talk to Taliban. No, we have to keep our channel of communication open with Taliban. Though it will be very difficult for India, seeing the history of the relationship between India and Taliban. But pragmatism demands that we need to put aside our history and we have to be very pragmatic in order to safeguard our present and our future. So first thing is wait and watch. Second is to keep our channel of communication open with Taliban. Number 3 is we also need to have a strategy to ensure that Kashmir should not be a next rallying point for the Mujahideens. We have to step up our security, we have to step up our intelligence with respect to Kashmir and other areas in India. Then another 4th point is that we have to give some time to Taliban 2.0, because Taliban 2.0 has assured that it would be different. Even if we don't believe Taliban, but one thing is very much clear, that it would be similar but it would not be the same Taliban, because right now the whole world is watching Taliban and Taliban is hungry for its global recognition. Taliban is hungry for its domestic acceptance by the people of Afghanistan. So as a benefit of doubt, we have to give some time to Taliban to see, and if actually the Taliban is a little bit different from earlier avatar, then we can help them in the redevelopment of Afghanistan. We can try to engage with them on the other positive fronts. And another thing that is also that we have to do right now is we have to walk a tight rope while deciding how much to engage with Taliban and how much to get involved in any anti-Taliban groupings. now, because we have seen in the recent past there have been voices against Taliban also. We have seen even the UK Prime Minister Mr. Boris Johnson has already talked about that there should be a joint response to the Taliban. Then also we have media reports that there are high chances of regrouping of Northern Alliance. Northern Alliance is a group of Afghan warlords that have fought against Taliban during 1996 to 1999. So there are also signals that there is going to be a regrouping of the Northern Alliances. So that also we have to see how much to engage with Taliban and how much to engage with the forces who are going to be a kind of anti-Taliban groups. That also we have to have a very fine diplomatic balance here, because we cannot ignore either of the groups. And then also in the meantime, we have to develop better relationship with other stakeholders in the region, like we have to have betterment of relationship with Iran, betterment of relationship with Russia, with Central Asian countries, with Turkey and all. And that is why we have seen in the past few days, in the past few months, there have been frequent travels, frequent virtual meetings between our Foreign Minister Mr. S. Jaishankar and these stakeholders, or back channel diplomacy is going on. Our National Security Advisor Mr. Ajit Doval is engaged in all these back channel diplomacies, and that is what we are looking forward to have a betterment of relationship with other stakeholders. So overall, if we see the situation is, this is something which is a very sad news, that Taliban has captured Afghanistan, but still we have to be very optimistic, because optimistic always finds opportunity in the worst of the situations also. So overall, India needs to be patient. If we have to sum up, overall India needs to be patient but vigilant till the picture becomes more clearer in the coming few days or months. We have not lost everything. We have to be very positive, we have to be very pragmatic, and we have to be very patient. Thank you.